Today we're going to be looking at how to simplify fractions. The key thing to remember whenever simplifying fractions is that we need to keep things equivalent. To explain what we mean by this, we're going to jump right into simplifying the fraction of 6/9. So you might be wondering, what exactly does it mean to simplify fractions? Well, it means that we're going to rewrite the fraction in its simplest terms, or in its lowest possible terms. And to do this, we're going to reduce the size of the fraction by dividing the fraction by the same number. That's where keeping things equivalent comes into play. In order to reduce the size of the fraction to keep it equivalent, we need to make sure that we divide both the denominator and the numerator by the same value. So we need to find a common factor between both 6 and 9. Well, we know that both 6 and 9 are multiples of 3, so we're going to divide both the denominator and the numerator by 3 in order to simplify this fraction. So for the denominator, we're going to divide 9 by 3, which is going to leave us with 3. And then for the numerator, we're going to divide 6 by 3, which is going to leave us with 2 for 2/3. Now, how do we know when we're done simplifying fractions into their lowest possible terms? Well, we know this when there's no common factor between the numerator and the denominator other than 1. So there's no common factor between 2 and 3 other than 1, so we know that we've written this fraction in its lowest possible terms. Now let's move on to our second fraction, where we have the fraction of 18/24. There's a couple different paths for us to simplify this fraction, so we're going to start out by rewriting this fraction, and then we're going to divide both the denominator and the numerator by 2, because both of these fractions are even numbers, so we can divide both of them by 2. So when we divide 24 by 2, we're left with 12, and then when we divide 18 by 2, we're left with 9 for 9/12. Now, we're not quite done here because, as I'm sure you've noticed, there is a common factor between 9 and 12 other than 1, so we can simplify this fraction further. And we have a common factor for both 9 and 12 of 3, so we're going to divide both the denominator and the numerator by 3 to simplify this fraction one step further. So when we divide 12 by 3, we get 4, and then when we divide 9 by 3, we get 3 for the fraction of 3/4. Now, there's no common factor between 3 and 4 other than 1, so we know that we've written this fraction in its lowest possible terms. So now let's look at the second pathway here. So we have the fraction of 18/24. Now up top here, we divided the fraction by 2, and then we divided that reduced fraction by 3 for a second round of reductions. So we can assume here that we could divide both the denominator and the numerator by 6. So we're going to divide both the denominator and the numerator by 6 because both 18 and 24 are multiples of 6. So when we divide 24 by 6, we get 4, and then when we divide 18 by 6, we get 3 for the fraction of 3/4. So as we can see here, there's a couple different pathways that we can take. But whenever you can find the greatest common factor, which in this case was 6 between the two numbers in your fraction, then you can simplify the fraction in one step rather than taking multiple steps in order to reduce the fraction. So hopefully by now you understand how to simplify fractions. Help make math less complicated by smashing those like and subscribe buttons. As always, enjoy today's math journey.